10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 504. Hey everybody, as always, before we dive into the episode, just wanted to remind you all of these episodes are available as YouTube videos on my YouTube channel. So just go on YouTube and search for my name, Nick Maynella. It should be the latest video on the channel. So if you want to see any of these examples that I'm talking about, I always put them on screen and there are always other visual aids for you. Also, all of the stuff that we talk about in these episodes is always available as PDFs with backing tracks, trading tracks, all kinds of good stuff over on our site, Jazz School. Sign up to support the show with a small monthly donation, and you get everything we talk about in a ready-made package so you can start practicing right away. If you want to know more about that, just click the link in the description, and it will take you over to Jazz School. You get signed up, and then you can decide whether you want to support the channel or not. All right, let's get on to the episode. So today we're going to talk about one of my absolute favorite ways to come up with better bebop vocabulary that's not, mining solos for licks or doing scale exercises or anything like this. Those are all great things. I highly recommend them. But here's a really cool way that you can incorporate your own creativity into developing your bebop sound, which I think is really important. I think to some extent, no matter what style of music we want to play, we should study the innovations of bebop. It really did change the musical landscape in such a major way that even if we don't want to be quote-unquote bebop players, we should still study some of this music. Okay, what are two core tenets of bebop? I would say the first and a really, really important one is harmonic clarity in your melodies. I've talked about this before, so placing strong notes on strong beats. These strong harmonic beats in 4/4 are generally beat 1 and beat 3. That's where 99% of the chords are going to change. So harmonically, those are really strong. So think like chord tones on those strong beats. The second thing that's really indicative of bebop is chromaticism. And cats were playing super chromatically before bebop, but bebop really highlighted the sound of chromaticism. So I love doing this exercise, which I still do all the time to this day, where I start with the harmonic clarity. So I just place a chord tone on strong beats. And I think a great way to get started with this is to just use a humble triad. So if I were to take a C major concert triad, and I were to put the root on beat 1, the third on beat 3, the fifth on beat 1 of the next measure, and then the root on beat 3. That's a great blueprint, and it's just so simple. So 1, 2, 3. That's what we're starting with. Now, the instructions for this are actually pretty simple. You just need to figure out a cool sounding way to get from the root to the third, and to get from the third to the fifth, and then to get from the fifth back to the root. Now it's interesting, and here's where the chromaticism sort of just naturally comes out of this exercise, is that you've got all these different intervals, right? So you've got between beat 1 and beat 3, a major third, and then between beat 3 and beat 1, a minor third, and then between the fifth and the root, you've got a fourth. So you very naturally have built into this exercise, well, I've got to figure out how an interesting way to cover the distance of a major third, then a minor third, then a fourth. So now all you do is you sort of get to work constructing these different ways of getting in between these chord tones. So here's one that would be very natural for me to actually do. So let's break that down. I realized I could go chromatically from the root to the major third in that span without doing anything else than going up the chromatic scale. All right, so I carried over that same idea, but what I realized is that on beat 4, I'm already a half step away from my target note, which is the fifth. So what do my ears and my brain tell me to do? Oh, why don't you just jump up above the fifth and come back down to it? So you see, without thinking of the term enclosure and without going into the exercise going, I'm going to use enclosures, I actually played one. very, very naturally. Okay, now I'm on the fifth and I got to get to the root. Well, that's a much larger distance. So what if I went up diatonically? 5, 6, 7. Now I could have incorporated some chromaticism, but I didn't. I heard some diatonicism. Okay, I want to stay diatonic, but I'm out of space. My next note's going to be the root on the end of 2. I got to get to beat 3. Oh, well, why don't I do the same thing I did before and just jump above the root and come back down to it? Hey, another enclosure that was just done very, very naturally, because when I play that, it sounds really good. And it's also just a function of covering that distance. So out of that mode of thinking and experimenting here, I get, which I think is very Bebop-ish. What's another way I can get there? Let's see. Yeah, that's a good one. And it simply came out of, well, I can't do the same thing that I just did. So how am I going to connect these notes together in a different way? And that's what I came up with. Now, I'm going to keep saying this in every video because it works. When you come up with a line, whether you came up with it here or here, you want to make sure that you're doing both playing and singing. Bo bo be bo bo be da bo da be do bo da. Bo 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 be bo da be do bo da be a bo da. See how the second time I did the fingerings while I was singing? Do that. Practice this way. Get used to in the practice room. Play, sing, play, sing, play, sing. Connect the singing to your instrument. Okay, what if I want to now flip this exercise so that I'm coming down? So I'm still thinking just a major triad, but now I want to go root, fifth, third, root, because that's going to be a completely different way of thinking and hearing. Let's see. Okay, what if I want to challenge myself to incorporate some 16th note triplets? Because I know that that's a fantastic sound that I want to have in my playing, very indicative of bebop. Still going to use that root, fifth, third, root. And you see, it all just came from that initial thought of like, I'm going to go down the triad and play those notes from the triad on the strong beats. Now, the cool thing that makes this sort of endless is that right now I'm just utilizing a root position triad, right? What if I decided I wanted to go from the 3 to the 1 to the 5 back down to the root? That's going to completely change the sound of the thing and give me so many different options on how to connect those. So what did I say? 3, 1, 5, 1? That might not have been what I said, but it honestly, it doesn't even really matter. What if I did 5, 3, 5, 1? You see how there's really just an endless amount of ideas that I can do with just a triad. Now imagine if you started incorporating the 7th, the 9th. What if you started trying to cover larger distances? Now you would start getting some arpeggiation in there, which would be amazing. What if you started doing this with minor triads? What if you started doing this with diminished triads, augmented triads? I mean, this exercise you could do for literally hundreds of hours. And eventually what starts to happen is you get a sixth sense for the sound of those strong notes on strong beats. And you start to develop this sort of endless well of ways to get between them. A great way to develop bebop vocabulary from your own ears and your own brain. Because I don't know about you, but I'm just sort of terrible at memorizing licks and then playing them. I do it in my practice a lot because I feel it's a good exercise, but then when I'm actually soloing, just not something I can do super well. This stuff really just ups my game in general and makes it so that I don't have to be playing any pre-programmed licks because I just have this ever-growing skill of placing those strong notes on strong beats, and then I have all these different ways of getting between them. So that's it. That's the lesson for today. What I will do for the supporters of the channel is I'll upload some of my own examples. So if you want to get started, you have some stuff in your ears and under your fingers already, and then you could start taking some of these ideas and flipping them in your own way. So I'll have some sound slice examples. Of course, no notated music because I want you to learn this stuff by ear. And that's ultimately where a lot of the growth is going to come from. So if you're up for it and you appreciate what we do here and you want to support the channel, get a ton of jazz education resources in return for that with every single video that I put out. Click the link in the description, go over, sign up for an account on my online jazz education platform, Jazz School, which is totally free, by the way. And then once you're in, you can decide on whether you want to support the channel in the form of a small monthly donation, and you get access to all of those fantastic educational resources. Got a lot of people over there supporting the channel. Thank you so much. It makes it possible to keep putting these videos out. So I really appreciate you showing the love in the form of a monetary donation. If you decide to do that, thanks in advance. And I'm looking forward to meeting you over on Jazz School. All right, everybody, let me know what you think in the comments. I'll see you down there. As always, thanks for hanging, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.